Hey everyone, today I want to talk about Nemesis farming and an alternative way to do it that is better profit per hour and kind of a lot more fun. So, most of you know Nemesis farming is basically popping Harbinger Scarabs with Harbinger, Zana map mod, and other juice in a Valdo's Rest map where you're getting boss Harbingers and then adding lots of other rare monsters to the map so that you generate lots of Nemesis currency. I'm not going to provide the guide for that since there are a plethora of videos out there that already explain exactly how to do that. Today I'm going to go through my method and why, if you're getting bored of Nemesis farming or you just want to increase the amount of profit you're making per hour, then maybe this is the way you want to go for it. And we're also going to talk about an alternative way to do the alternate method of Nemesis farming. So the gist of my strategy comes down to, instead of farming Canyon, farming Promenade. And not just any kind of Promenade farm, but rather farming Promenade with this sextant mod as well. Area contains a Mirror of Delirium. Now, there are two main ways to do it. I'm going to talk about the first one. So the first one is just using the Nemesis mod in conjunction with the Mirror mod. This Mirror mod is going to cost you 1 Exalt from the trade website, so I'm just going to show you that. Where is it? So here, you can pick one up for about 1 Exalt. It goes up a little bit in price, but it's totally worth it. And in the other video that I'm going to be releasing alongside this, we talk about the chaos value per map from having this mod on a map. At minimum, it's about 85C, though more realistically, it's about 100C. So you can get about 400C worth of value from a single one of these mods that has 4 uses on it, which means you can afford to buy the ones that are a little more expensive, but you're probably even going to be better off just rolling your own. Something else we explore in this video is basically that the cost of Awakened Sextants pretty much entirely revolves around rolling for the Nemesis mod. Awakened Sextants cost 5 each, and rolling the Nemesis gives you about 4.7C worth of value per sextant, which means all these other mods you can roll are basically free. And if you roll your own, you're going to come across other useful things, such as the Mirror of Delirium and other mods you can add to your map. So that's kind of the way I would recommend going about obtaining them. It is substantially rarer than Nemesis, so don't get too caught up on it. You know, like if you don't hit it, you may just want to buy it. I'm going to leave that up to you guys to figure out for yourselves. I will tell you that there's profit either way. I've done this on a stream the other day and then the day after that, and we were low rolling our results. We were getting way under what I was getting when I initially did this test off stream, and even though we were getting very unlucky, we were still making tons of money from doing it. Now, the other option you have for doing all this is running the very famous and old does not consume sextant uses enchant on a map. So this typically sells for about 1 Exalt in the TFT Discord. There is very limited supply of these at the moment, and whilst they are the rarest outcome of that particular harvest plant, the reason there is low supply is because a lot of people don't think this is worth money anymore. A lot of people they see it and they don't even bother saving it. They are completely unaware of the fact that it sells for 1x. And some of the people that I have bought them from have asked me, why are you willing to pay 1 Exalt for this? I thought it was useless now. So the reason you would run this is because given the cost of this and this together, you can get to the point where you're spending about 4 Exalts for 4 uses. Oh, for 4 maps. So it's going to cost you about 1 Exalt, just between pretty much these two, to run, not quite, but very close to, 4 Exalts to just run these two on your 4 maps, or 1 Exalt per map, which is about the cost of the enchant. But when you are doing that, you can add in other things, such as a Beyond Sextant and a Ritual or a Harvest. Those are the two I would recommend. And so you end up picking up a lot of extra value out of that map just by being able to clone these. So I don't know that buying Beyond for 85C is really worth it. If you're doing a six-man quant farming, of course, buying these and putting these on your maps for 85C is of course worth it. But as a solo player, it's not really worth doing it. But if you have this enchant, you can afford to slap this on, you can afford to slime Ritual, Harvest, whatever you want to do. And then you just keep a set of these Watchstones to yourself that you typically want to keep the Valdos ones, because if you're using Ivory Watchstones, you're going to eventually run out of uses of the Ivory Watchstones. But you just keep a set of the Valdo ones to yourself, and they'll never run out. As long as you only run, your personal set with the enchant, you're never going to run out of these, and these will last you the rest of the league. And this is a strat you can do this league. This is a strat you can start setting up for next league. Obtaining these enchants in high amounts are going to be very hard. Basically, was off work sick, and I spent half a day on my second screen just sniping these enchants as they came up on TFT, and I saw between 2 and 5 per hour. Now, obviously, if this strat becomes a little more mainstream and more people watch this video, more people are going to start saving them, and word is going to get out that it's worth something, and so there's going to be a higher supply. There will also be a higher demand. I would not be, however, paying 1.5x for this. If they start to become too expensive, simply just don't buy them. Now, we have a lot of power as consumers to simply boycott anyone who wants to try and sell these for larger amounts, because the strategy has kind of gone mainstream, quote unquote, if it does. Because we have the first method that I talked about of running this, where you're simply running the Mirror of Delirium with the Nemesis mod, and because of the cost of sextants at the moment, if these mods become too much on the trade site, you can just roll them yourself, right? So as a consumer, you have a lot of options, you have a lot of different ways of doing this farm and acquiring these mods. Don't go paying absurd amounts of money to buy these off other players when you can just obtain it yourself for a reasonable price. Okay, so, and now, what are you probably wondering, why Promenade? Why not Canyon? I've been asked this question a lot on stream the other day, so I think we'll clarify that. So, basically the reason for Promenade is that Delirium splinters work very differently depending on whether you're doing a Delirium orb or you're doing a Delirium mirror. So when you're doing a Delirium mirror, the amount of splinters you get are based off the distance from the start of the map, not just the density of the map. Promenade has a very good layout. It's one of the best layouts in the entire game for generating splinters at the end of the map. The distance from the start is quite long on about half the layouts. On the other half of the layouts, not so much, right? But it's still one of the best in the game. It's right up there with Malformation, Jungle Valley, and some others that you probably are more aware of. But the reason we're going to run Promenade is because we are forced to run in the Valdo's Rest region, and as a result of running in Valdo's Rest, we don't have a great selection of maps. You know, the second best one from here is Lair. Yes, Lair is the second best option, and it's worse by quite a large margin. So you're pretty much forced into running Promenade if you're going to be doing Mirror of Delirium strats, but it's definitely higher profit per hour than just doing regular Nemesis farming, and it's easy to build up quite a lot of Promenade maps if you favorite them instead of favoriting Canyon. You may also just want to have a tab set up like this, as I do here, and you can add any prophecies to it that add juice to the map. As adding juice is even more rewarding when you're running a Mirror of Delirium compared to a normal Delirium orb. You know, with a normal Delirium orb, the small amounts of juice that varies between the different strategies you use, they're not going to vary the amount of splinters that you get by a great deal, but with Mirrors of Delirium, it will make a big difference, so it's worth adding prophecies and whatnot in. The other thing the two other things to keep in mind, if you happen to get your sextant mods on an Irresistible Temptation, be aware that you can end up running Reflect as your additional random prefix. You can fix this by running the mirrored Reflect Immune sextant mod. That's not really a problem. It will be a problem if you're doing the doesn't consume sextant charges strat, but if you're doing that, you're going to be using the Valdo's Rest Watchstones, not the Irresistible Temptation, so that's not a problem. The second thing that you have to be very careful of is when you have a Conqueror in the region, if you have more than two little segments left on your bar, which means that your Conqueror will be finished within the next two maps, because of this Adept Tracker, you run the risk of proccing your Conqueror with the second last map instead of the last map. As soon as your Conqueror is procced and Kirak has the little exclamation mark above his head, your Citadel, this thing here, is going to become locked. You can't take things out of it anymore. So if you are doing the enchant strat, where you don't want to consume the uses of your watchstones, or the sextant uses on your watchstones, that strat basically becomes bricked for one set of maps, and the Conqueror map is going to be a bad map that is not going to synergize with Mirrors of Delirium at all. You're going to lose money, and you're also going to lose a set of charges on that watchstone, which is very bad. You don't want to do. We did it a couple times on stream. Other than that, the other couple of things you want to watch out for is dying in incursions. So, of course, you should still be running incursions in all... The juice strat is pretty much the exact same as regular Nemesis farming, where you're pretty much running, like a Shaper or an Elder Scarab. You're running a Polished or a Gilded Harbinger Scarab, a Legion Scarab, and then Blight or Abyss, but probably Blight. And then you're running the Harbinger Xana mod. So, and of course popping incursion as your alpha mod. When you do that and you die in an incursion, your cast on death portal, if you have one, won't go off, and you're going to spawn at the start of the zone, and you're going to lose your delirium. When you do the strat, you have to run cast on death portal, or at least drop portals periodically throughout the map as sort of checkpoints in case you die. This is, of course, if you're running on a build that's kind of squishy. If your build is comfortably tanky, then you don't really have to worry about this at all. But yeah, basically on stream we died in an incursion without dropping a portal before we... So the strat is to drop the portal before you enter the incursion. And we entered an incursion and we died, and so we lost a delirium through that. We lost another mirror of delirium through a very obscure bug where we had all our juice at the very start of the map, and that caused the mist to not generate through the last half of the map. And wherever our incursion room was physically located in, I guess that map was towards the end of the map. So the delirium mist wasn't actually far enough through to be in the incursion room, and entering the incursion caused us to lose our delirium. If that happens, you have to be very aware. If you see 2 timers at the top, you have to quickly go kill a pack in the incursion room so that you can use the portal to get out of the incursion, and then beeline it back to the portal to get out of the incursion as fast as possible so that you can spawn yourself back in where the mist is and not have your delirium bricked. The one other problem we had was another very rare occurrence where we got, I believe, silenced or something along those lines right before dying, and cast on death portal didn't work. And so we lost our mirror of delirium through that. Providing you're careful about those sorts of things and you run them in large amounts, you're not really going to run into problems there. You do have to be aware that the mirror of delirium is not going to last forever. However, the sheer amount of league mechanics you're putting into the map will mean that you can go through the map at a very, very comfortable pace and never really run out of delirium until you're done with the map. Pretty much every time that we didn't screw something up or make a mistake or encounter a bug, we were able to just get to the end of Promenade, and we were just sitting around, and obviously the mist wasn't moving because we had just killed so many mechanics, and we had to manually unpause the delirium and make it end prematurely so that we could get our loot. Now, I showed this off in the other video, and it's going to... You may watch this one first, you may watch the other one first. I'm not sure. So I'm just going to show you these. So this was the most juiced map that I did so far. It involved using a ritual vessel that had 100 monsters in it. Unfortunately, I only procced 3 altars, but that's not really that big a deal. We got lucky and had Metamorph in this one, and we ended up getting to 8642 rewards. It's one of only 2 times that I've seen that reward count get hit. Usually you end up with 7531, so not really a big deal though either way. And then this was the loot at the end of it. 189 simulacrum splinters, which is the most I've gotten so far from a single map. So, and this is basically why you run Promenade, because even though you're going to get 100 splinters most of the time, you do sometimes high roll it and get 189 splinters. You almost always get a delirium orb as well. Quite often you get 2 delirium orbs as well. So, yep, the loot is almost always worth it. And in this case, we kind of got unlucky on our rewards, but I've gotten scarabs a few times, and there are times you hit the jackpot and, it spits out like 150 splinters, 2 delirium orbs, and then like a 2 gilded harbinger scarabs. You make a ton of extra loot just from this. So when you're doing it this way, you're basically interacting with 3 different loot multipliers: your delirium mirror, beyond, and nemesis, or in some cases just nemesis and the delirium mirror. Much higher profit per hour than regular nemesis farming, but there are those caveats that we've talked about. I don't want people to do this and think I'm trying to bait them into something that's going to get them insanely rich. It's only it's better than normal nemesis farming, but not by enough that I would stop everything I was doing and drive home from work earlier to get on top of this sort of stuff. It's you should mostly do this if you're looking to change things up and do something a little different. It's not, if you're trying to save up for a headhunter, this probably isn't going to make that much of a difference in the bigger picture. Okay, anyway, I just thought I would share that with everyone, since I haven't heard of anyone doing this strat yet, and a lot of people have been asking me about it, and I keep promising I'm going to do a video on it. So that's the strat. I hope you all had a good time. I will see you in the next one.